Alright, today we're going to be making a new gauge cluster for Chard. It's just a 63 fire truck. The reason I'm making a new one is because the gauges that I can find won't fit these holes, so we're going to make new ones. We're going to make a new faceplate, which is the white part that you see. We'll make a new faceplate altogether. I don't really want to cut this apart because it's gorgeous, but you gotta do what you gotta do to get gauges. You need to monitor all your systems. So what I did was I started out, I like to take a piece of masking tape or masking paper that we use in the paint booth, make it fit. It's a lot easier to mess with. The only problem is it's kind of flimsy. So I like using poster board. It's a lot easier to mess with. You ain't got to worry about the edges folding so bad. The gauges that I use in just about all my builds are, they're not auto metered. Hang on, I'll tell you the brand. They're motor meter. Amazon special. They work really well. It has a GPS speedometer, so you don't have to mess with speedometer cable, the electronics of the speedometer cable. You don't have to worry about having a mechanical versus a digital. You don't have to worry about any of that. It goes off GPS. We take our cars into some no signal places, and I've never had an issue with it, but inside the box it has the gauges in here. This is a holder for the gauges if you must, but I like this because it has the perfect set holes of what you need. So then you trace those out. That's what these are, and now you know exactly. You know, you can put your gauges here, you can move them around, play with them, all that good stuff. So what I did here is I've traced this onto my poster board, and now we play with our instrument cluster until we get what we want. So I've already preset the centers of this just to save on time on the video, and then I found the centers of these as well, and then I've also made a center mark just to keep my gauges separated in the center, because it has such a wide gap here. You can't just trace this onto here. So we'll start by putting, this is kind of the idea I have. Just putting your two center gauges here, and then your other two gauges about like so. That way you have you fill your panel. It's a nice clean look. Everything's symmetrical. Now before I cut this out of metal, I will I'll fold it up, make sure everything lines up perfectly, make sure it's all symmetrical. I like doing stuff the old-fashioned way, the hard way if you must. I think it's a lot cleaner finished look. Yeah, I would love to have a really big, nice, fancy CNC machine, computer program to do all this for me, but you know, we work with what we got. Yeah, so now we just work on getting our placements where we want them, essentially. So I do know I want my two main gauges here, so we'll trace around these guys, and then once I get it the way I want it, I'll go back through and take Sharpie over it so I know, you know, all my sketch lines if you must, and get rid of all those and just go off the Sharpie lines. Okay, so that's got my two center gauges centered with each other, perfect gap apart. So now we'll go and I like making one side and then just copying it for the other side. Works out that way a lot easier. Yeah, so we'll just place these where we want them. How about the center there? I might move him over a little bit. I think it leaves a spot here for whatever we want. Let's gap up a little more. Cam just a hair over. All right, I like it. Again, there's no preset. You know, you do what you want. It's your car. You know, if you wanted them on a straight line, you put them in a straight line. You want them, you know, all circling the center one, you can. Moved on me. I do want them a little closer together off the edge a little bit. Make sure we're gonna have room. Because these gauges have a 1/4 inch lip around them as well. Well, I'd say 1/4. I haven't measured it. I'll grab one of the gauges and show you. And the wiring on these gauges is incredibly simple. I usually daisy chain the lights all together, but as you can see, there's the gauges we're going with, but it fits nice and snug up in the hole, so you've got a little bit of room to play with. You know, you can't cut a straight line like me, but see the amount of space on the back. So I mean, it's got some wiggle room, and then the straps that tie it, that hold it on, you have a lot of space there too that you can fix a boo-boo. So now what I'll do is I'll take and just simply trace this out. Do our center line first. Let me grab a Sharpie. The Sharpies have seen better days. So we're going to do our center mark because that's a fixed point. Trace around the inside of these because you want to keep that outside perimeter as tight as you can, so that way it you don't end up cutting more metal out than what you're supposed to. I guess it could have traced the. I guess I could have traced the circles again. Again, the only reason I'm doing this is so that it's a little easier to see, because that paper is not white, so it gets to be a little harder to see sometimes. So now that we have our, we'll go ahead and do this one too. So we trace our center line. Save some time. Sorry, y'all probably can't see what I'm doing, but I'm essentially tracing the Sharpie lines from underneath. In my old ass square, I just refuse to get rid of the square because it works perfect. Oops, missed that line. Well, now my pen stopped. Now we fold this little guy over. Well, go ahead and cut these out. There's probably a lot easier way of doing this, but like I said, I like to be, I put my heart into everything. Everything I build, everything I do, I try to give it 100%. I could probably just go off my eyes and get the other side pretty close, but pretty close and perfect is a huge difference. Oops. Got outside the line there a little bit. I'll go back to kindergarten and learn how to operate scissors. Kids don't run with scissors. I don't know about y'all, but I don't know if y'all can see my face or not. My tongue tends to dry out, and so does my lips while I'm doing stuff like this, because I always have my tongue hanging out. I want it to be as close to perfect as possible. Even though average Joe would never see it, I would, and it would bug the piss out of me. name's cracking. Okay, so now we have center line. So now we cut our center line. See, and it helps making this piece to start with because it's easier to see through when you're tracing your line. A lot easier to cut. Apparently that side's smaller. We'll roll with it. Okay, what have I done here? I made a boo-boo. 18.5. Be 9.25. My center line's a smidgen off. So what we're gonna do though is we're gonna come over to about here. And I'll double check by folding. Which could be this piece too. We're gonna run, because if this is exactly this side, and we'll run exactly with this side. You gotta think too, I mean, this shit is, this bezel was made in, well, if it's a 63 fire truck, I would say it was made in 62. And depending on, you know, what time of the day of the week, lost my Sharpie. Depending on the time of the day of the week, you know, we all know. If it's a Friday and it's almost beer 30, I shouldn't say that. If it's Friday and it's almost time to go home, you don't get the products made the way you do at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday. Wow. That's what we end up with. I know it kind of looks funky, but it'll work out. So now we're gonna cut this out, fold it, and see what happens. When you cut this out, you wanna go by the inside of the Sharpie mark, because that's the original, should be. So essentially, this is what the new gauge cluster will look like versus the old. Now we see how well that fits in there. Nice and pretty. So we're going to cut the outside of these out. Probably should have grabbed my upholstery scissors. They make a lot better. They make a lot better, cleaner cut than these do. But like I said, we use these for everything in the shop. We might be cutting, 20 gauge sheet metal with it. We might be cutting, God knows what. And if I could control an X-Acto knife good enough, I would use it, but I don't have enough control of that. A lot of circles to cut. I'm trying to be gentle with the cardboard, because I don't want to ruin all my hard work. Again, this is not essentially, the only way to do it. I need to try a little bit more out. We'll get that in a minute. This is not the only way to do it. However you do it, as long as you're happy with it at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Don't matter what anybody else thinks, as long as you're happy with it. Like my wife hates my shifter design, which is just a B&M shifter on a pedestal. She wants me to box it in and do this and do that, but I'm sticking to my guns on this one because I really like the way the shifter is. That's how I wanted it. Look at her. chilly in here again. I ain't cutting a big one out. It's a little easier than them damn small ones. So once we get this cut out, then we take our metal of choice, whether it be 20 gauge, whether it be stainless steel, whether it be 14, 16, you know, I think 16 is a little overkill. 20 gauge would be fine. I mean, the only thing it's doing is holding your gauges in place. Oh. Some people like to use that diamond plate, polished aluminum, you know, whatever your preference is. I'll probably use like a 16 gauge. I might paint it back the Wimbledon white just to give it some originality. I wish I could have used that, because that is gorgeous. So this is our new gauge cluster. So original gauge location, new gauge location. Now it's time to break a lot of hearts because I gotta cut this piece. It's gonna be fun.